Hi, my name is Hank. I am an advocate for Kratom, and for most people that have used Kratom, there is an understanding that the FDA is threatening to have Kratom banned. And I think it's important that we allow Kratom to remain accessible because of many reasons, but most over is Kratom is a natural resource. It's grown from a tree. The tree is actually a family member of the green tea tree. And Kratom actually has medicinal application prospects where it has been proven that Kratom can help people that are drug addicts or alcoholics to go through the withdrawal process with minimal discomfort and to successfully withdraw from both the drugs and alcohol. For myself, I use it to help with my post-traumatic stress syndrome, my depression, and the severe pain that I experienced from the injuries I sustained while on active duty in the military. So, looking at my beard, I'm not doing so well there, but we can get by that. So, with the idea of Kratom being a member of the green tea tree, the applications are as simple as what you would do when making tea. You take the powder, it typically comes in a powder, as you can see, okay? And there are multiple types of Kratom. Here are just a few, okay? Hopefully you can get a good picture of that and read that. But each strand of Kratom acts on your body differently. I like to use red because it helps me with the pain. White helps me with my anxiety. And the green helps me focus and stay alert and be more responsive in society. So it definitely helps when dealing with PTSD and depression. So keeping in mind that you're making a tea, you need a source that will make the water hot enough. Right now, I am using a Keurig. Okay, now the Keurig will not boil the water, which is something you definitely do not want. Apparently, there are active agents in Kratom that once it reaches the temperature of boiling water, they become deactivated or inactive. So you don't want to do that. You keep the water hot, but not boiling. So if you can make your water from, let's say, a Keurig or a coffee pot, I think that would be sufficient. The first thing that you want to do, depending on if you've ever used Kratom or not, you want to start off slow. For those that have never used Kratom, some people find it to be similar to the effects to be similar to that of what you would take with caffeine, where you get a lot of energy. And with anything that you consume, you can always have too much. You can always have too much caffeine. You can always have too much sugar. You can always eat too much. You can always drink too much. So keeping that in mind, less works best, okay? The less you use, the best it will work. But you want it to be enough to actually work. So for me, because I've developed a specific level of tolerance, I use 2 teaspoons, okay? So this is Mangdal White, okay? Now, when you're making this, you might want to keep your counter kind of covered or whatever, because Kratom, the powder, once it gets on, let's say, laminate, it will stain. If it gets on your clothes, it will stain. That's the only backfall on the use of Kratom, I think, is how it will stain anything it touches practically. But if you use 1 teaspoon, it's not level, and then I'm going to select Mangda Green. As you can see the green dot, I try to keep my containers separate and labeled so that there is no confusion. I'll get 1 teaspoon of Mangda Green. Okay, oops, I'm spilling. Might get a little bit more because that was nearly half empty. So now I have 2 teaspoons of my Kratom. Now, there are things that you can use to enhance the agents in the active agents in the Kratom so that your body can better absorb them. One of the things I like to add, and mostly for flavor, but it does allow a chemical bond to happen so that the bond will allow the Kratom to be absorbed best in your system. And I use ginger, garlic, citrus liquids such as orange juice and lemonade work the same way. So for me, I'll just go ahead and whoa, that wasn't funny. Add a couple squirts. Okay, put a couple of squirts in there. I mean, it's practically up to your desired flavor, okay? So I slide the cup under, and because it's a larger size, I go ahead and select the larger size for the hot water. You give it time, let the water run in. I mean, obviously you're not going to pull your cup away before it stops running into the cup. As soon as the water starts entering the cup and making contact with the ginger and the Kratom, the heat of the water allows the elements between the ginger and the Kratom to bond. Like the sugars and proteins and whatnot from the ginger will bond with the elements from the Kratom. Because of the sugars and proteins, those sugars and proteins will allow your body to absorb the Kratom, and it will give you a better, cleaner effect. You will more likely reach your desired effect. Now, remind you, Kratom will not take away all your problems. You got to help yourself work through some of that, but it curbs the pain. It curbs the anxiety. It helps keep your mind off of things so that you don't find yourself sliding back into a depressive state. Now, you're still going to have those issues, but it's far and fewer between. And that's the one thing I've learned about Kratom. My Kratom has finished, so now I'm just going to start stirring. And just like if you're making chili or anything, you want to stir it together for a couple minutes so that you can have everything spread out equally in the liquid. Now, typically, I'll put a cover on top of it and let it cool. Okay? Once the Kratom cools to a desired room temperature, I take cold lemonade, fresh lemonade, no sugar, because there are certain types of sugars that will not help Kratom. It will actually counteract Kratom. So you got to be aware of the unnatural sugars. Sugarcane, you're fine, but synthetic sugars is not a good idea. So you stir this concoction for about 2-3 minutes, then get your cold lemonade, pour the cold lemonade on top of your kratom and ginger, then I recommend letting that sit for nearly 2 hours. It sounds strange, but it seems to be most effective when trying to reach the desired effect that you're wanting to get from the use of kratom. So I'm going to go ahead and end here, but this is one of many ways that you can make kratom. It's just something that I've been doing for quite a long time, and I know that if it helps me, it's got to help other people. It has to, because I'm not saying I'm worse than you or anyone else, but my situation as far as pain, depression, PTSD, and all the other elements that go with that is pretty excessive. So if it helps me, I'm sure it can help you and countless others. There's already millions of people using kratom, millions. And like I said, they use it for many reasons to help them get off of drugs and alcohol. People use it to help control or lower pain levels and anxiety, depression, and so many other things. So if you decide to use kratom, please share it with others and let them know what your experience is. There have been claims of people saying that they have gotten addicted to kratom and this, that, and the other. I assure you, because it is a natural element from a tea tree, there is no addictive properties in kratom. None. Despite the fact that the FDA is trying to push for that. You got to keep in mind the things that the FDA is trying to influence with society with is helping their case so that they can have kratom made illegal so that they can produce a product that they say will take 10 years to produce, but they plan on replacing kratom. But all it is the kratom itself, and they're going to extract one insignificant element and then give it a different name, and then turn around and sell it to the general population for a ridiculous amount. Right now, if kratom was made illegal, the FDA would stand to benefit or profit billions of dollars, billions. And it's expected that it could even be higher. But if they fail and kratom is not made illegal, the FDA will lose millions. So they're going to push. They're going to push as hard as they can to influence people that are not sure about what kratom actually is. They're going to do what they can to influence those to not support the use of kratom. But I stand before you as a proud user of kratom, and without it, I hate to say, if I did not have kratom, I would not be able to perform simple tasks such as cleaning house, washing dishes, playing with my kids, playing with my wife. But, I think you get my point. Kratom helps me enough to be a functioning member in society. I do not think that kratom should be banned. I think that if kratom is banned, millions of people like myself, and even worse than myself, will suffer. If kratom is banned today, that will force people like myself to find other means to help control all those significant defects. And I am a law-abiding citizen. I mean, I did 22 years in the military. I like to follow the rules. But when you're talking about one's health and having to deal with pain every single day of their life, which is no different than a form of torture, people will get drastic and go through drastic measures to offset that discomfort. And if that means acquiring something illegally, then that might be the case for a lot of law-abiding citizens. So this is your chance to stand up to the man and say no more. Advocate for Kratom. Try it out. I mean, and then come out here and talk about it. Spread the word. Awareness is more than half the battle. Okay, so work together.